welcome everyone. Drop in. I will use the first couple of minutes, with a little bit of intro, um, to kind of give everyone the chance. But I don't want to waste too much time, especially for those of you that are here on time. First of all, sorry for doing this 45 minutes later than we do it every week. I had a panel discussion that I was not able to move because it was part of an entire event. And it was exactly during that time slot. So we had to do 45 minutes later. So thanks for being flexible here. Then, second of all, for those of you that join us here for the first time ever, we do this on a weekly basis. I'm the CEO of Cake DeFi. Cake DeFi is a platform that provides hundreds of thousands of customers cash flow on their cryptocurrencies. On this show, obviously, we talk about updates from the company. We have insights from team members from various departments, depends on whatever we have planned. And obviously, we discuss what's happening on the markets, and especially over the last 24 hours, a lot of stuff happened. And we have, a novum. Fabio, for the very first time, has obviously a defunct crystal ball. He has been spot on with his predictions over the last, I would almost say, since the beginning, since we're doing this show. It's the first week that, his perma bull crystal ball is wrong. I think if we had done that update yesterday, it would have been probably better. But as most of you probably know, Bitcoin is down 8.4% over the last 24 hours. Ethereum is down 10%. The entire market on average is about down 8.86%. DeFi chain is holding up really, really well. It's down about a bit of more than 6%. So it's up against Bitcoin and Ethereum. So doing quite well. Interesting also that the entire market is about the average down of Bitcoin. So that means basically that the average is not worse or better off than the mother of cryptocurrencies. It's also quite interesting to reflect. If that had happened in 2017, I think all the other coins would have been probably in the minus 30, minus 40%, with Bitcoin dropping almost 10% within 24 hours. So we're going to discuss that a bit. Obviously, we're going to discuss what does this mean for the long-term kind of cycle until Christmas. Is 100,000 still within reach? And talk obviously about decentralized stocks, commodities, precious metals coming. There was a successful upgrade on DeFi chain yesterday. And also I wanna obviously really kind of say thank you to all of you. We've had a insanely strong growth with customers, insanely strong growth in customer funds. We have seen all-time highs on that on the platform, and that just shows obviously the people that we have, the customers that we have at Cake are long-term focused. Yes, obviously such a setback, I'm sure, is something you notice, but I would say most of our customers have this long-term vision and they don't just get shaken out by such a setback. And we're going to discuss this now a bit, but in general, I think a long-term bullish trend is very much intact. I would be very surprised if 69,000 or whatever it was the top again. I would be very, very, very surprised, but we're going to discuss this a bit. So with this intro, and I think now everyone's kind of here, then let's get started. Fabio, first of all, what's happened to your crystal ball? Dude, like we're all so much relying on that crystal ball, and now it's kind of wrong. We're down. What's happening?
Yeah, I guess there was a major misfunction with my with my crystal ball, with my predictions. We talked about this briefly last week where we also said that neither you or me have a crystal ball, but I guess I was lucky a few times in a row with my perma-bull approach, and my underlying stance on the markets, nothing changed. These like 10% wicks, or maybe we go in lower than that. They are kind of be expected, especially there is these kind of let's say a little issue with markets when they become really hot. When a market is over leveraged, it kind of cannot move upwards. When everybody expects the markets to move upwards and they leverage their bets, the markets actually cannot go higher. And this is, I guess, what we saw over the course over the last 4 weeks. And actually, just within the last 24 hours, we had more than 800 million US dollars that got liquidated. Most of them on Binance and on OKX. I guess everybody that is in a leverage position, they feel the pain. Everybody that is not, this is actually a healthy development. Yeah, but I guess you cannot be right every time. Sorry, guys.
No, I mean, I think first of all, I hope you hear this in our tone. Obviously, we're choking. Look, no one knows the future. I think that's really important here, and I've been congratulating Fabio over the past weeks every single time. But then on the other hand, we also said, look, no one knows what happens on a week-to-week basis. So I think that's really important here to mention. I've been in calls literally all day. But you are way closer to the community. You are way more on Twitter, way more in the social media networks. What is the chit and chatter around the sell-off? I mean, obviously, I don't think we were that highly leveraged, but we were definitely leveraged. A lot of that leverage collapsed. What was the trigger? Is it, I don't know, is it just some people selling? Was there, like, I saw some discussions that this is because of some of the coins from Mt. Gox started to get sold off. Others are saying this is like a whale that sold off. Again, any kind of chitter chatter that you hear out there?
I guess if I'm not seeing a particular reason for the sell-off. It's more about general market structures, and also you kind of touched on that last week, that when everybody's bullish, most of the time it will not play out. And I think it was precisely the same thing that actually played out. Everybody's bullish. Everybody was expecting prices to go higher and placed their bets accordingly. And so it didn't play out. Like my inbox today, especially like during the last few hours, it's funny because sometimes I'm not 100% sure if I talk to actual humans or if I talk to thousands of bots, because the messages all kind of seem to be the same. They always start with "Sir Admin" or "Please Admin." And today I got like at least 15 or 20 messages where people ask me, "Bull market over." Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I made a tweet, and that tweet was really prior to that. I don't really want to call it a sell-off, but let's say this dip. And that tweet said, and I still like 100% stand by it. And from that, I really would love to take this a bit forward. Where do we see the next 6 weeks? Where do we see the next 6 months? Maybe a bit. In that tweet, I said, if we still want to see the 100,000 by Christmas, we need, in my opinion, one of two scenarios to happen, or both scenarios to happen. First of all, we either need to have a catalytic event that's very bullish that we're not expecting right now. And I don't see anything on the horizon at the moment that could actually be this. And that's why I would call this an unexpected, kind of very bullish event. And I think that's the more unlikely scenario, to be honest. I think the more likely scenario, that's exactly what we discussed last week, and you touched on it right now, is this concept of when everyone is bullish, there's just no one left to become bullish. And so you can just think about yourself, like just reflect on your own. Just yesterday, for example, right, when the markets were like really hyped and solid and pumping, would you have bought more crypto? Probably not. So the people who would have been buying crypto yesterday, and that's exactly what we actually see on our platform, right? Is not necessarily those people who already had a lot of crypto on our platform. It's people who have been already in the space. So it's not even new people joining. It's people who have been in the space who have not had any funds with us and who are now coming and saying, oh, wow, this is really interesting. Okay, I see you guys are doing a great job. Let me get part of this and let me deposit funds. Let me buy some funds. Let me get started. And so that is kind of the tendency there. And so when everyone is super bullish, there's just no one left to become bullish. Now, of course, we never have that there's everyone bullish, but when the sentiment in general is very bullish. And so on Twitter, I posted scenario 2 is the sentiment really has to shift into a pessimistic sentiment. And the pessimistic sentiment doesn't necessarily mean the prices crash. So again, I don't see a dip from 69 to 60,000. I think we're around hovering at around 60,000 of Bitcoin, which is like minus what 15% more or less, plus minus. I don't see that as a crash, right? So to me, that's a dip. And so now the key thing is this: we don't necessarily have to dip much lower. So even if, let's say, we go to 58,000, 57,000, and we just stay there for longer periods of time, people get more and more pessimistic because they just see it as less and less likely that we're going to see, for example, 100,000. And then suddenly there's possible buyers. Suddenly there's potential people to flip the sentiment again. And that is, in my opinion, what we need. So if you look at these emotional parameters on Twitter, whenever you hear, and that's the things that scare me always a bit. And I'm more of a conservative kind of investor. I think you kind of got to know that a bit about me. Whenever I hear that people are like considering that any coin goes up, and all they're asking is, so I made this tweet that DeFi chain is up 50% or more than 50% in November. 50% in like 2 weeks, right? I mean, like 99% of all investors don't make 50% in a single year, right? Just to put this into perspective. And some of the replies I get, yeah, that's pocket money. Look at this coin and this coin and this coin and this coin. They're all up like 10 times more. And then other people saying, yeah, that's great, but when do we see the next 500%? And so when this sentiment of, man, it's not about like, it's not about not losing money. It's about how to get rich quick. When everyone's kind of having this sentiment, it's just really, really tricky and dangerous, just in my opinion. And I think we have seen a little bit of this overconfidence last week. I really believe so. I really believe that there was not a single person anymore who was skeptical about the market, about the Moonvember, and about the long-term and mid-term kind of direction. And so the setback right now, to me, is as good as it gets from a little bit of a cooler into the sentiment, into the emotions, and suddenly I see coins selling off 20%, and people are like, crap, like crypto doesn't always go up, but it can actually also go down. And that puts the little pessimistic sentiment in. And I think if I would make a tweet, like a poll right now on Twitter, and I would ask, do you still think Bitcoins could hit 100,000? I actually think probably less than 50% would think we could hit 100,000. And a week ago when I made that tweet, I think like 70, 80% said, yeah, sure, Bitcoin's going to hit 100,000. And so it's going to, this sentiment shifts by so much despite the price actually not moving that much. And so that is to me the second scenario, how we can actually see a bull run. Maybe not within November. I mean, it could be. Who knows? It's very difficult to like look. A week kind of shifts the sentiment so fast. But I still think we have about what about 5 weeks left until Christmas. About 6 weeks left until the end of the year. And I mean, look, in October, within like 2.5 weeks, the market pumped by 50%. So even if by the beginning of December, the Bitcoin price is at close to 60,000, well, within 2 weeks, the price could easily be at 100,000. And it has a way higher chance if people actually relatively pessimistic, because that means it has more people to shift the sentiment and actually speed up that price sentiment. And I just want to kind of bring forward that entire idea. I think it's a really, really, really important concept in all of that. How do you see that, Fabio? Especially like Christmas. Obviously, a discussion is then also always lengthening of the cycle, which of course, whenever the market takes a little bit, suddenly becomes a bit more of a prevalent topic. What do you hear? What do you see out there?
Yeah, it's funny. You touched on a few very important points, and I guess the large majority of investors, they saw this November and December period for a very, very long time as being this parabolic period where finally it's happening and we are warming up and we are finally there. And now the anxiety starts to rise because it's not really happening. We are not really pumping right now. And the majority of investors, they actually believe this has to happen in November and December. Now, just to play the devil's advocate a little bit. So we touched on that in our last episode. So we have these 3 data points, 3 cycles, 211, 213, 217. And if you just look at the data, you can make an argument. The first cycle took around 50 weeks to play out, the second one 100 weeks, and the third one 150 weeks. The funny thing is, we are at 150 weeks right now. So the last cycle took 152 or so, from top to top. So if you just look at these 3 data points, you can see that every cycle is 50 weeks longer than the last one. So this is almost a year. So if you play this through and you actually think, okay, maybe there's a theory or an argument to be made that every cycle is 50 weeks longer than the one before it. This would mean that this cycle would take 200 weeks to play out, and this would give us a time frame for October 2022 for being the market top. Of course, this is just one way and a very simple way to look at it, but the argument can be made that, like, lots of people, they think the halvening has huge impacts because there's less coins on the market and less coins that are being sold. But what is funny and what most people don't realize is the sell pressures of the miners is actually smaller than the sell pressure from exchanges. So the coins that are being mined every day and coming onto the market, miners actually hold onto the coins. They're not selling them, and companies like Mara, they are refinancing at the current levels that we have. So they're not selling, they're raising external capital. But the exchanges like Binance, like OKX, like FTX, they actually make their profits in Bitcoin. They make their profits in crypto, and they need to sell those profits for fiat. So the selling pressure this cycle, for the first time, comes actually from exchanges and not from miners. So there is an argument to be made that halvenings will have less and less of an impact.
Yeah, I think very, very interesting aspect. I want to add a question here that I got on Twitter. And that was, will this setback in price impact any kind of progress on DeFi chain? Absolutely not. I mean, one thing I always want to point out, I'm fairly optimistic on Bitcoin, Ethereum, DeFi chains price this year, also long term. However, I also want to highlight it's always difficult for any project to have a positive price tendency if the general crypto market is in a negative price tendency. So I just want to highlight that. I think if we see a positive price tendency in the general crypto market, I'm extremely bullish on DeFi chain, especially with the launch of decentralized tokens on there. But I just want to kind of point that out a bit. Yeah, I think that's super key. Yeah. Obviously, lengthening of a cycle. We touched on that a bit. Are there other stories that you see a bit in the community right now that, well, I don't know, you feel we need to touch on?
There's lots of discussions when it comes to general markets, and what you always say, Julian, and what is like a healthy approach to look at things is if data changes, you need to change your mind as well. And for me, the whole year I was also looking like everybody else at this end of the year period. And right now it seems very unlikely, as you just mentioned, that we just pump up to 100K or even more within the next 6 weeks until the end of the year.
I can go fast. Yep.
Yeah. But as long as we go, I think the unlikelier it is that this is actually happening. You know, you never know. It can be that next week everything is completely different. And maybe to bring up 1 or 2 other points that are discussed in the community, I guess one point that comes up a lot in our Telegram groups right now is the hard fork that we had on the DeFi chain side for canning. This happened Monday morning. And lots of people actually think, okay, with the hard fork that actually happened, right now everything is live. But maybe you can touch on that a little bit, why that is not yet the case, or
yeah,
just
I mean,
partly.
yeah, So in theory, like everything is kind of ready to be live, and we actually see already people creating vaults. So basically we see people locking up crypto and creating decentralized tokens. So we already see this. However, so there's a couple of aspects in all that. um One thing you don't want to have, you don't want some people who have the technical abilities to front run all the other people. So the way this has to happen is you need to have the technical abilities in there so that anyone, all the, and I also want to highlight here, there's a lot of projects that are building on top of DeFi chain now. We have so many wallets, we have technical integrators, we have on-ramps, we have connectors, websites, tools, and so on. And all these now need to have a chance to really kind of implement all the data and implement all the work. So that is what's happening at this very moment. And then all the tokens actually need to start, and everything kind of has to get ready. But there's not allowed to be any rewards in the first week for the simple reason that this allows everyone to get ready, but no one can front run everyone else. So everyone has the same kind of chance. And then that's when the rewards are actually hitting in. And so that's going to be the process over the next about 2 weeks that kind of every project now kind of needs in order, and also we as Cake need and to get ready and have everything ready for our customers. It's just not possible. You look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin had its hard fork as well. Or actually, hard fork. It had its soft fork as well for Taproot. That doesn't mean that now, like a few days later, every platform and everything is ready for Taproot and everyone is implementing Schnorr signatures and so on. It just doesn't make any sense because now it takes some time for these platforms to actually implement this and use these tools. And the same is happening on DeFi chain. So it's kind of same. So this takes now a little bit, and step by step, you will see the pickup. You will see more and more of that. You see more and more wallets implementing the decentralized tokens. And yeah, give it about 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, maybe first week of December or something, but then it should be in full steam. So this is just a little bit of a period that I mean, the hard fork went successfully. I think everything is going super smoothly, but these are just things that you need to keep a bit in mind. Again, DeFi chain is super decentralized. There's so many different projects that are working on that. And so it's not like one company or one operator saying, okay, ready, and now they are ready and everyone else is not ready. It's like everyone is kind of on the same level. And I think that's really, really important to mention here. Are there specific questions that you see in the community, especially around Cake, that you feel I need to address here?
Probably one of the most frequently asked questions is what kind of stocks will be available in the beginning. And I think there will be a new segment tomorrow evening, Europe time, where Daniel and Mark, they run this DeFi Chain news show, and they're also part of the Ticket Council. I think you are as well, and a few other people. And they will, I think, probably, I'm not 100% sure if it's actually the case, but they will share this tomorrow, no?
I think so. I mean, I also want to highlight, so this is not really so the Ticket Council is not really like this council that makes like these crazy decisions. Actually, the decisions we made on there was just we set up the algorithm together in how these initial kind of stocks should get selected, and then how the community, and it's really going to be purely the community, can actually add more and more tickets. So it was more like, how are we going to set a very easy to understand algorithm? And the algorithm was super simple. We want to have all the asset classes represented on there. So that means crypto, of course, it's already represented on there. Regular currencies, the US dollar, yes, that's going to be represented on there. Obviously stocks, then bonds, commodities, precious metal, and real estate, right? So these are the large kind of asset classes that you have, and we wanted to have all these out there represented. And then basically what we did was we just picked the either largest ETF out of each of these sectors, or whatever the largest, the largest or the most traded or the most liquid things in those, and kind of created a pool of 15 ticker symbols that are going to be ready there for the launch. And then after that, there should be a regular vote by the community to add more tickers to that pool. Because with this initial kind of group, I think there's no one who's going to be able to argue against that, because it's like a very, like, I don't think there's anything in there. Like if anyone hears, oh yeah, there's gold in there, oh well, okay, that's precious metal. We could argue about should precious metals be in there, but I think DeFi chain should be about having all the assets represented. So Yeah, very simple, like stocks, Tesla. Yeah, sure. I mean, it's super traded, big fans. You look at the S&P 500, MSCI World. I mean, all these are super straightforward things. And from that point onwards, right, this is just kind of the start. Now it's about, okay, the start, now it's about what does the community want? And so the community should now be voting on, hey, we want this, we want that. And the ticket council is actually not there to do anything anymore. It was just more about setting this initial kind of pool that in probably 2 months is totally irrelevant because the community has voted more other tickers in that initially were there, and so that's kind of the entire start. But it was Mark and DC who were the ones who were really also involved in that, and so they're gonna I don't think any of those tickers are gonna be a surprise or something, and I don't know them off the top of my head. I can just tell you that it's all the large asset classes are represented. So from in the next 2 to 3 weeks, you're gonna be able to diversify and invest and trade all the asset classes on DeFi chain that are out there, and I think that's the main goal. And I think in tomorrow's news show, they're gonna they're gonna talk about the tickers. They're actually going to talk way more about the algo, how stuff was selected, and it's totally mathematical. So they're like going forward, there's not a single decision other than what ticker needs to be added, and that's the community that's going to decide that. That way, it's 100% decentralized. There's yeah, no human kind of or not an individual person's decision needed. It's not a yes or no. It's super straightforward, extremely transparent for everyone to follow. So I think that was a really kind of great decision that the community did there. And I also want to highlight here, this was like very little involvement from my side or u-zyn side, actually it was very much driven by the suggestions the community had. So yeah.
Are you maybe open to do a really, really short rapid fire on features for 2022 that Cake is just thinking about without giving any ETA or promises, just things I picked up from the community, and I would just say a few words and then you can maybe elaborate if
Sure.
it is something that we are considering. So the first thing is making cheaper transactions, for example, with integrating another chain. Is this something we're looking at?
Yep, definitely. In general, so maybe let me add something. In general, I think in Q1 we still need to integrate a lot of the verticals down. So it means we still need to work a lot on having all of DeFi implemented on Cake. But then especially from Q2 onwards, you're going to see going wide. So that's when you see us implementing a lot of ecosystems and a lot of those chains that you've constantly been asking. So that's kind of a bit of a timeline here, without obviously getting pinned down on like a promise here, but just in general a bit. Q1 is still a bit of a going deep, and then Q2 onward is really going wide. The plan really is that by end of next year, there shouldn't be a large ecosystem in the crypto space that is around DeFi that Cake hasn't integrated.
What about next of kin? So if in any case something should happen to me and I want to leave my assets to my family.
That has been a actually it's been on the backlog for quite some time. It's just at the moment literally the team is super stretched thin, but that's on the backlog. The way we envision that, there's two ways to do it. Either you do it in a very complex, there's three ways. You don't do it, which I don't think is a good choice, or you make it super complex, the way like banks do it. So you need to have an attorney or some kind of will, and it has to be notarized and blah blah blah. And I think that's just super difficult and super complicated. So the easier way, and that's kind of the middle ground that we want to implement really fast, is if you have to have funds on our account. That's important. If you don't have funds, this entire system doesn't work. But if you have funds, you're going to have the ability to add in an extra email address. And that email address you can change with whoever that is. And then, for example, if you don't log into Cake at least once every 3 months, there's an automatic email that goes with general information that you have an account with us. And if anything happened to you, that person please reaches out to get in contact. So that way you can then deposit with your attorney or with whoever you want to do this information about who you would want to give that account to, or whoever is basically the person to give these assets to, but maybe the person is actually not aware that you have funds with us. And so that way we automatically reach out to whoever email you fill in there, and then that person can reach out and hopefully nothing happened to you. But if in the hopefully unlikely case anything happened, that person then can actually reach out, we can get in touch, and then that is a super easy way actually, without you having to deposit all the legal stuff with us. You can actually do this with your entire own legal team, and then your legal side, or whoever is then basically in charge, can then liaise with our customer support and with our legal side to transfer those assets over. So that is kind of the way we plan to do it, because otherwise it just gets so tricky with all the various jurisdictions. And so that way it's easier to implement, but it gives you a really, really good ability, to really kind of make sure that funds don't get lost.
What about graphical user interfaces with for tracking abilities, so I can track my investments in all sort of graphs and charts and
I
things
think you
like that?
should share this, because I think, Fabio, share whatever you want there. You have been the one who has really also worked closely with design on this. I mean, I have seen the previews. It looks super slick. I mean, it's just as awesome as it gets. But maybe you want to share a bit there.
Okay, yeah, sure. I don't want to give a specific ETA for this, but it is practically ready. The only thing that we need to figure out is that we can implement this on a larger scale so it doesn't crash our database. Because with we have some chains that pay rewards twice a day, and with almost 300,000 customers and growing, this can actually have a really, really big impact on our database. So what we're doing currently is we're testing it, but all the graphs and how it should look and everything, it is ready as it is. And I think we will be able to launch this soon-ish. So maybe over the coming weeks. Let's just say weeks. As soon as we are 100% sure that this will not have a big impact on our database and we can really scale this, we will publish it. And for me personally, if you use Coinbase, it's very similar to what you see on Coinbase. So these graphs in a very simplistic and very nice way, pie diagrams and everything you were asking us to do since, I don't know, maybe a year. It's coming. Then maybe one other question the community has is regarding what if I have a kid and I want to make an account for my kid, or I have a company and I want to make an account for my company. Is this possible? Will this be possible at one point?
Sorry, I had a set out like I missed which part, the accounting.
Now, if I have an account and I have a kid, maybe a 2-year-old or
Sub
5-year-old,
accounts.
yeah, sub accounts for companies or for children.
Now I thought the accounting. Okay. So the legal side here in Singapore is relatively strict when it comes to kind of accounts for minors, and at the end that's what it comes to. So the easier way to do this is simply to have sub accounts on main accounts, and at the end that's definitely something that's on our backlog to do. So that is how we would be planning on solving that. I'm not foreseeing us going the route of offering accounts to minors, simply because it is extremely complex from a compliance and legal standpoint. Yeah, and I think a sub account actually serves a very similar purpose. And yeah, you can just solve that with a will, or with some document that the sub account, in case anything were to happen to you, would be owned by your child or whoever.
Maybe one last thing. We did have this, or we discussed this, I think, a year ago or 6 months ago, and we were looking into a solution to offer different kind of lending products with different kinds of risks. Is this still something that we are looking at, or is this something that we are considering maybe for 2022?
It definitely is. And the reason why we always push this back, and the idea here was to have like more of a bullish lending product and a bearish lending product, and more of a like almost like a neutral kind of lending product. The way this always got pushed back was because we constantly saw how actually people were not willing to take like relatively low returns to lock up funds. And on some of those products, for example, a bearish or a very bullish product, right? The rates would depend a lot on what the price is actually doing. So the odds of you either making zero or making a lot flips back and forth all the time. And so what we have just seen was that people had way more interest in the higher return products that give a constant higher return, be it staking or liquidity mining, and obviously soon tokenization. We just saw that there was a constant trend into that direction, and so that's where the developing and engineering resources went towards. But this is definitely not something that we canceled. It's just something that got delayed. Yeah, uh, yeah, and at the moment it looks like next year.
Cool. Maybe one last question, and I have to say, this is of course, you know me, I'm a little bit of a Bitcoin guy, and lots of people, especially the ones that I bring onto the platform and introduce the Cake to, they want to know, is there any plan at one point to integrate Lightning?
We don't have a concrete plan on that right now, but I think it's gonna be I think especially next year, I think the pressure from the community is gonna be high enough that it's really like absolutely interesting. I think at the moment, Lightning is used by the estimates are used by close to 8 to 9 million users in total. And just to put that into perspective, we're talking about probably of 2 to 3% of all Bitcoin holders, right? So it's a extremely tiny percentage of all Bitcoin holders. And at the end, at Cake, we are not at a size level or stage level where we're trying to grab for the highest fruits. We're kind of grabbing for the lowest fruits, right? So the lowest hanging fruit. So that means we ask ourselves, what do we need to implement into the company in order to have the biggest bang for our buck? And we are still in that phase where 20% of our action actually deliver 80% of the results. I think other companies, they are way more into that either direction where that's the direction that they are going. So they're going way more of that Lightning Bitcoin route, which is like in general, not the general direction we're going at Cake. We're just going into the route for cash flow on crypto. And so for us, that's just one small segment. Or you're talking about the Coinbases of the world, who are like really at the edge of kind of pushing the boundaries. And so they need to kind of really fight for every last percentage point in market share. And so for us, I think next year, probably very likely, there is this time where integrating Lightning is part of that general strategy to really kind of have a 20/80 principle that really works out. I just think at the moment, all the work and all the effort to implement Lightning would definitely get us some users. But to be honest, I think us working on an easier KYC kind of flow, an easier sign up flow, us working on adding the decentralized tokens, decentralized stocks, and so on, I think it gives us way more for the same kind of work at this very moment. And so for me, from my point of view as a CEO, obviously I measure the success our company has with the value that we deliver to our customers, and our customers then vote with their money. And so that is basically how I'm reflecting on this. And I just think we're getting more positive votes, and the positive votes here, I'm really measuring in how many customers with how much money do we have on the platform. I think we're getting more votes for the same kind of work right now with the things that we're doing right now and working on right now. And probably next year this is going to shift, and there's definitely the point at some point when we have to integrate Lightning.
Do you have any questions left that people asked directly on Twitter? And otherwise,
I
maybe
just need
we
to
can
refresh.
also touch on crystal ball prediction time for next week.
Sure. Wait, let me just see if there's anything. Always need to scroll down. Man, Twitter, for me, especially in times like this when it's so hectic, I think I really would love to see sometimes or show sometimes how Twitter actually becomes almost unusable. And I'm not a large account, right? I mean, I have like what, 70,000 followers. And sometimes in times like these, it gets a bit crazy. But then I would just love to show people how unusable sometimes Twitter becomes at that. But then I wonder, like, how does this work for an Elon Musk? I mean, I still don't understand why or how he even replies to any tweet. Because like I think it's almost impossible for me to find answers or to look for certain things. How does he even find that? And then I'm like, yeah, it must be really like total coincidence that he picks out this answer and he's like, this guy totally triggers me. I need to reply now. Yeah, I don't know. No, I don't see
Maybe
any. Yeah, sorry.
maybe to just briefly touch on that. Cake is hiring. Currently, we have like 25 open job listings. Also, if you just check out www.cakedefi.com/jobs. And also, if you have any questions, if you want to learn more about Cake and what we're doing, feel free to join our Telegram groups. And then this Twitter space is recorded and uploaded to YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. So if you missed the first part where we talk mostly about general markets and what is happening, then feel free to tune in to Spotify, Apple, or YouTube at any time. It will be uploaded later today.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks. I don't have anything else. What about we do a crystal ball at the end? What do you think? Let's focus on Bitcoin. I think it's like a general market sentiment here. So we're at, let's say, 60,000 right now. Do you want to do an end of November and an end of year kind of prediction, or how do you want to play that?
Yeah, let's do a short term and a long term thing. Yeah.
Okay, but I mean, end of the year is not a long term. It's like it's probably still short term. So what's long term for you? Like
this
uh,
cycle, let's say 1 or 2 months and 1 year, something like that.
okay, so we do. I still think we should do an end of November, end of Christmas, and then let's say what's the highest price in 2022.
Perfect.
Okay, so you go first on the November one.
Okay. Lots of volatility. Let me just say, I think we're in a channel. Worst case is 51. Best case, all-time high. And yeah.
Okay, I buy into the lowest one, 51. I actually buy into that. So let me counter and I say no new all-time high. So under 69. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm a perma bull, so I always think all-time high is just around the corner. Maybe tomorrow, maybe today. Just how I feel about it. But yeah, and probably we touched on this briefly during the first part of the podcast, or from the Twitter space. And I think we will be higher at the end of the year, but I strongly believe in a lengthening cycle. So in my opinion, the top will be in Q1, maybe even in Q2 next year. And I'm super bullish. So I think 200,000 is on the table.
Until Christmas or
No, not until
2022.
Christmas. Until Christmas, maybe maybe short of 100K, something like 80 or 90 or so, but like we will go a lot higher in Q1 or Q2 2020. That's my firm belief.
Okay, then let me be the more bullish person here. So I'll think we can hit the 100,000 by Christmas. I'm still gonna hold on to that. I think the chances went a bit lower, but I'm still holding on to it. 200,000 in this cycle. I just don't buy that. I struggle with that. I don't think we're gonna see the 200,000. I think we're gonna stay short of that in 2022. But then we're not doing okay, then let's say we do 180 because I think we're gonna still do 100%. Okay, so let's do 180 in 2022. So I'm let's say a bit more bullish than you until Christmas and a bit more bearish in November and next year. What do you think about stock to flow model here? I see Plan B getting a lot of shit right now on Twitter. I didn't fully follow what happened. Some people are like him and Willy Woo are starting a fund, and so it's all like a scam because now he's luring all these investors in. And then he says he's not starting a fund, but he just mentioned some fund in a podcast. I don't know. I didn't follow it. I don't care. I just see now a lot of people like trolling him and like making clown signs and like saying his models don't work and they're all bullshit. What's up with all that?
I'm a fellow Dutchman, so I live in the Netherlands and Pambi's here as well. So I have lots of compassion, and I really like his work and what he's doing. The only thing that I kind of struggle is that he gives the mining and these halvings so much weight in his model, because what we touched on earlier is that the biggest sell pressure right now comes from exchanges. They make their money from transaction fees, and they need to sell this. So
Yeah.
as of now, they have such a big selling pressure from people just trading. If everybody would just hodl and nobody would trade, I guess stock to flow would work. But because we have so much leverage, so many traders, and exchanges actually need to sell these fees back to the market, I think stock to flow, I don't know. The funny thing is, we will actually kind of see this play out in the course of the next 2 or 3 months. If we don't hit the 100K during, I don't know, until January, it probably is invalid.
And then how do you think then it's going to play out? Because I feel sometimes, right, these models can be self-fulfilling prophecies. So if just enough people like believe the price of something is going to hit $1,000 tomorrow, everyone is just going to pump it to $1,000 because everyone believes in it. Could this be like a black swan when suddenly everyone who said, oh, stock to flow, stock to flow, stock to flow, and now suddenly it turns around and everyone's like, bullshit, that was just a farce, just lucky, just like the time travel on Reddit. At the end, it doesn't matter. And then whoop, it turns the total opposite. And people are like, oh, screw that. I'm not gonna, like, it's probably not gonna, it didn't hit 100,000 by the time he said it was. It's definitely not gonna get 200,000. He's totally wrong. Let me read a sell. Do you see a bit of a risk there, or do you think that people are just gonna like brush this off?
Yeah, tough to say, but he has a big following. He has there's lots of strong believers, and also like if you believe in hyper-Bitcoinization, and if in believing that the US dollar or fiat currency will fail, then actually and this needs to be the case for stock to flow to play out, because if you go, I think, to 2045. A Bitcoin needs to be at 230 million for stock to flow to be true. So at one point, it just becomes ridiculous, and it can only work if fiat it fails. But yeah, that's kind of the underlying thing. But I guess if stock to flow doesn't work, he will, of course, he will get lots of bad publicity on Twitter, and people will say, hey, your models don't work and everything. But it amazes me how good the model did until now, and we still have a few months for it to play out. Everything is possible.
True. And yeah, no, 100% true. Agree. Cool. So yeah, we finished with that. I don't see any other questions. So with that, I want to say thank you to everyone. Thanks, Fabio, for setting everything up. Yeah, for all the great input and questions, and obviously for being in touch with the community. I want to say thanks to the community, our customers who show us the support. Obviously, you vote with your wallets, and we appreciate that. We work hard. We try to deliver as much value to you as we can. Yeah, and we appreciate your business. If you are interested in working for us, then please go to cakedefi.com/jobs. We would love to have you on the team. I think at the moment we have like what 25 to 30 open job positions. Just to give you a bit of a feeling, over the next 12 months, we're planning on hiring over 70 team members. So we're almost doubling in size. Yeah, it's just so much growth that we're seeing. And yeah, would love to have you on. So thanks. Stay safe, everyone. Stay cool, everyone. Sometimes it's maybe one really wise finishing parting guidance. Investors make their money while they are in the position. You don't make the money from buying or selling. You don't make it from trading. You make it from actually holding the position. Think about that. And especially in crypto, yeah, hodlers have always outperformed traders. Yes, there's always this one lottery ticket winner that's then being passed around of beating the market. And yeah, it's one for the hundreds of thousands of traders that lose money. So yeah, be smart, hodl, get cash flow on our platform. Obviously, that would be awesome. And see you next time. Stay safe. Thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate it. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.